Hey guys, it's Maria Eckersley here with another teaching tip. This week I am partnering with Camille from Chicken Scratch and Sniff, a great teaching site. So if you need teaching help, she's a good resource. But I'm pairing up with her. She said she had a lot of requests coming into her site for how to teach kids in a classroom, in a church classroom with special needs. I want to say right up front, I am no expert at this. I have a son on the autism spectrum. He's 15 now, so I've kind of been through a lot of the church curriculum with Jack and kind of seen how he does in nursery and primary and young men's. So I thought I'd share some of my favorite tips with you. But please keep in mind that all these kids are different. This is just ideas to get the ball rolling, and I hope you'll do a little more digging on your own with your specific kids in your class so that you can find out what works for them. But this is just to get you started. So I have three big tips for you. The first one is to communicate with the parents. I know there is a little bit of a worry as a teacher. You don't want to offend parents. You don't really know how to, sometimes you don't even know if the child has a special need, and you're nervous to ask, but you can tell it's just not clicking. So I have created for you a cheat, we'll call it. And essentially what it is it's a survey that you can give to your kids in your class. And now I wrote it so that you could give it to all the kids in your class. In fact, even if you don't have a special needs kid in your class, you might want to pass these out. It's a free printable. You can find it on Chicken Scratch and Sniff and also on MechMom. And essentially all it is, here, I'll set this down. All it is it's a questionnaire that's kind of written with more specifics in mind. So the idea is you give this to the kids in your class, they take it home, the parents fill it out, the instructions are up here, and then they return it to class. Or maybe the parents take a picture of it and text it to you. But the questions are written in a way to help you teach better, not just to get to know the kids. So for example, in addition to the normal stuff like their grade and their talents and stuff like that, it asks for specific things like what kind of treat or drink would work as an incentive plan for your kids? What hobbies and talents can I talk to them about? So that way you're kind of showing them that you don't just want to know that he's good at basketball, you want to use that basketball knowledge to help you teach better. Are there any fears I should watch out for? Are there any sensory limitations that they have? So if they have a hard time with textures, I want to know that. If they hate slime, I want to know that so that I don't break that bond by accidentally putting things in class that would bother them. Same thing with motor skill limitations. If there's any kind of thing that they have a hard time with, I want to know that ahead of time so that I don't plan a game that involves that and would put them in a delicate spot. So that's what this survey is all about. It also has a spot for your name and your contact information. Really all this is, it doesn't matter if you use this or make your own, but all this is a way for you to say to your kids' parents, I want to know your kid. I want to actually teach your kid. If they see that you're asking these questions, they're going to assume that you're actually really trying to engage. And as a parent, we love that. That shows, especially parents of kids with special needs, there are so many people that kind of are scared to deal with kids with special needs, and so they sort of just disengage. So this shows me as a parent that you're engaged and you want to do better, and you probably won't be perfect, but you're going to try. As a mom, I can completely relate. So that's my story. That's again a free printable you can find today on Chicken Scratch and Sniff and on MechMom. Comes in lots of colors just because I can't resist. So that's my first big tip, is to be proactive. Oh, I forgot, sorry. The other big tip is when you're going to give out the survey, stick a magnet on it. I don't know what it is about magnets, but somehow if I put a magnet on a handout that I give to a primary child, all of a sudden it makes it up to the fridge and the parents might actually see it. So anytime I give a handout that I need a parent to see, I usually stick a magnet on it, or I turn it into a gigantic sticker and stick it on their shirt. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it works. So that's my tip for me to use. Don't just give them paper. Put some kind of adhesive on it and literally glue it to the children. But that will help you. So there's your first tip. My next big tip is to be quick in how you handle problems. So a lot of times with Jack in particular when he was little, I would find out a month or 2 months later that they have been struggling in sharing time this whole time and that he will never sit in his chair. Well, that's a really easy thing for me to talk to Jack about if I had known it was an issue. But because they didn't want to bother me or they were worried about offending me, they just didn't talk to me about it. So I would encourage you, just remember, these parents of kids with special needs are used to this kind of interaction with teachers. I interact with my son Jack's teachers far more than I interact with my other kids' teachers I'm used to it. So please text them. Shoot them a text on Sunday and say, hey, Jack did great today in class time, but he's just struggling with that transition from sharing time to singing time. Can you help me think of ways I could do that better? What would be helpful to him? Parents love that. I would love that. So be fast. Don't let your frustrations build up over time while you're worried to broach the subject with them. Just open it up. It doesn't matter. They're used to it. The other big thing is to be sympathetic. This is a little self-serving, but moms and dads who deal with special needs kids, at least for me, they deal with a lot of struggle. And there's a lot of people who don't understand their kids. And so let me just give you an example. So Jack's a great kid. He has always been a good kid, but he doesn't understand social cues and he has a hard time in social settings. So he struggles at school. So anytime in elementary school, I would see his elementary school name pop up on my phone and I would be scared to answer it because inevitably it would be something I needed to apologize for that I couldn't control in any way. Some mistake Jack made that I would say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yes, I will talk to him. I'm so sorry. Parents of special needs kids, at least mine, you deal with that a lot. So be sympathetic of that. And when you encounter these parents in the hallway, just be kind. Not that you're not, but I want you to lead with something positive. So if you're going to talk to them, say, I don't know how Jack does it, but he is so fast at finding scriptures for me. He's so great at that. We're still kind of struggling with whatever, keeping him in his seat. So if you could talk to him about that, that'd be great. But I love that he's so excited to come to class. Those kind of comments, that constructive criticism, or even better, if you just give a straight up compliment with no criticism, they just need that. I need that sometimes. So I want you to try to, if you haven't yet, just go up to them and say, I love your kid. He's great. He does such a great job. I'm going to talk to you later about some things I want to work on, but I just want you to know I love when he comes to class. That would just make you melt. So I encourage you to be positive and sympathetic. So my step 2, my next big tip is to be consistent. Kind of like any primary calling, you got to show up, and you got to show up every week, and you got to be ready with a lesson every week. That's, it's from serving people that you grow to love them. And I really think that happens in primary and in young men's and young women's. By being with that child each week and them seeing your face and seeing what you're trying to accomplish, it builds that bond. So you really have to be there. And if you can't, try and find the same sub each time, or maybe 1 or 2 subs that you switch between so that it's comfortable to them and they can kind of see things coming. Another big thing is just to greet them. Right now we have young men leaders who, they're so great. Jack isn't always the easiest kid. He's great, but he's not always the easiest kid to handle in a big social setting. But they never let on that that's the case. When he walks into Mutual, they come up and they give him a high five and they say, oh, we're so glad you're here, Jack. And he loves it. He loves going to Mutual because of those young men leaders. So you can make a big difference. And as a parent, having him excited to go to Mutual makes my life so much easier. So greet them. It's just simple. Just a quick greeting so that they know every single week that they're there. You're happy that they're there. That will build a relationship with them. Another big thing, if you don't know about visual schedules, you might want to look them up. They're on Google if you search for them. Essentially, most of the time they're used with autism, and really all it is it's just a to-do list, but it's a visual one. So they're little icons, maybe a clock, maybe a toothbrushing thing. For example, if I was going to try and break up Jack's morning and how to get ready when he was a kid, I would have a chart that had a little toothbrush icon, and then it would have a little clothing icon, and then an icon that says, pack your backpack. Those icons would be on a chart, and he would, as he did one, he'd move it over to the other side of the Velcro. Those visual schedules help in a class as well. You don't need to get the Velcro. You don't need to print out icons. All you need to do is draw on the chalkboard and say, our lesson today is going to be 4 big chunks. First, we're going to do the lesson. Then we're going to do singing time. And then we're going to do a game, and so on and so on. And then just draw an icon so that they can see. Just knowing the predictability of the lesson will help at least autistic kids feel more comfortable. They'll be at ease. And if they're at ease, they're easier to teach because you can kind of get through that wall. So you might want to give that a shot in your lessons as well. Try the visual schedules. Another thing is to try and use positive reinforcement whenever you can. Again, this is specific to my son, but from what I've encountered, it applies to a lot of kids with special needs. They struggle with punishments. They have a hard time differentiating the fact that you're not punishing the behavior. They feel like you're punishing them, and it kind of can build a wall between you and that child. So punishments are harder. What's better, the flip side of that with Jack, is he's great at incentive plans. He loves checking off boxes to get towards a big goal. It's the only way I got him to do a high adventure hike. He had to check off all the boxes and he had to go do all the steps to get to that big prize at the end. So you may want to look into that. In fact, I would talk to the parents and say, is there any kind of incentive that, we're working on him just sitting in his seat during sharing time? What kind of incentive would work for him? And oftentimes, at least in my case, the parents can be the ones giving the thing. So often we had a situation in class where he had a primary teacher who would just put a star on his hand. So he got a star for sharing time if he did well. She used a pen, and another star if he transitioned from sharing time to class time, and then a third star if he did great in class. And then it was my job to track his stars and say, Jack, you got 3 stars today. And I put him on the chart at home, and then he got a reward from me as a parent. So I'm not trying to put a lot of weight on you as a teacher. I think especially when you have 10 kids in the class, and they're not all getting a reward for sitting still, it's not really fair. So you might want to network with the parents a little bit and find a way that you can help them without, cutting out the other kids. So that's my tip for you on that area. My last big tip is to be fun and flexible, and then also go to the right sources for help. A lot of people think that because autistic kids love things that are predictable, that you should just get into a rhythm and do the same things each week. But man, that has not been what I've seen with the autistic kids I've encountered, which is not tons of autistic kids, but enough to know that they love fun. They like things that are surprising. They like comedy. They are fun kids. So you can, as long as the boxes, we're going to do lesson time, and then we're going to do singing time, and then we're doing activity. As long as those cubes don't change, or don't change too dramatically, you can change what that little box does. But maybe one week it's a puzzle, and one week it's Play-Doh, and one week it's we go in the hall. You can change it up as much as you want. They thrive on that a little bit, as long as they can see it coming. So you might talk through your whole lesson when you sit down and say, first we're going to do this, and then we're going to go to get some puzzles, and it's going to be great. So just kind of talk them through it as you sit down. The last thing is to incorporate, or not the last thing, 2 more. One of the last things is to incorporate their talents into your lesson. Obviously, if they love baseball, you might want to play a game that does like a visual baseball game as you answer questions in class. If my son loves Studio C, so his home teaching companion lets him do a Studio C skit every time they go to a new house to home teach. Those kind of things help you build that connection. So find a way to incorporate their talents in. The last big thing, I promise this is the last, is to rely on the right sources. You could read a million articles. You could try to read every book. I've tried a bunch. There is nothing better than prayer when you're dealing with kids with special needs. The only person that knows them better than their parents is the Lord, and He wants to help you as a teacher. He wants those kids to learn. So He will help you. I've found that as a mom so many times where I am hitting my head against a wall because I can't get through to Jack, or I don't know how to do anything different. And I will literally just beg for help. And ideas will come. You have to kind of be in the process. You have to be, it's like faith and works. You have to be putting effort in. But as you're putting the effort in, Heavenly Father will refine what you're trying to do and make it click. I could give you so many examples of when that worked for me as a mom. So I encourage you to pray. We always say you should pray before teaching a lesson. When you have special needs kids in your class, please absolutely pray before you teach your class, because you'll get ideas and inspiration that will jump out at you that didn't come before. So I encourage you to pray. I also would tell you to stay positive. Sometimes you can get really frustrated. There are going to be really bad weeks where you're going to focus all of your attention on this one child, and you have 9 others that you feel like you're neglecting. Stay positive. Just know, this is from me to you as a parent. I have the same worries. I have 5 other kids besides Jack, and so I often worry that I'm not taking care of everybody, or I'm not giving everyone the kind of parent they deserve, because I have to spend a little extra time with Jack. But what I found is Heavenly Father makes up those gaps. He finds ways, He plays for the team. He finds ways to fill in where you can't be enough. And I think that applies in teaching as well. So I want you to stay positive, ask for help, and know that even when you feel like you've completely failed, Heavenly Father fills in the gaps. You'll find that these kids, the special needs kids and the regular kids, caught and understood things via the Spirit that you could not have said yourself. I can testify to you of that. It absolutely is true. So have hope. It's going to get better. It's like Ether 1227, where it talks about weak things becoming strong. Putting emphasis and effort on this attempt to teach kids with special needs will make an impact on their life forever and their families' lives forever. So it's worth your time. And I hope you gleaned something from this, and hopefully I can do some more posts about it in the future. But good luck, and I will be back next week with more tips. Thanks.